Oh my, one, happy Pride Month. um, um, yeah. Um, two, we're filming this at the desk because it's, you can't tell, but it's very gross and gloomy outside, which means, the best lighting is in here. So we're filming at the desk. We're talking about May books I read in May that weren't for videos. Uh, the end. I read a grand total of 15. I'm going to be talking about 8, but one of those was DNF. Yeah, I DNF'd like 4 books this month. I've been in a slump. And also a DNF streak. There was a time where I DNF'd 2 books in one day. We love that, which is why my average rating is a 3.57. It is my lowest of the year, by far, by like a solid 0.2. And the second lowest is February, and that makes sense with the timeline of my life. So I'm just saying. I read a grand total of exactly 3,700 pages. That's hilarious. 74 and a half hours of audiobook. Most read genre was fantasy. That makes sense in my brain. I can see that for sure. I think only one of them, no, 2 of them will be talked about in this. Okay, yeah. And then one video had 2 fantasies that were me trying to figure out which one was my favorite for the month. Any other fun stats to talk about? I don't really think so. Oh, I finished 2 series. I did. When did I do that? I'm so proud of myself. I don't even remember doing that. That sounds about right for me. Anyways, that's the stats. Who cares about that? We're gonna talk about books. I have the list right here. Let's go. Mammoths at the Gate, which is the, I want to say 5th book of the Singing Hill Cycle series. Essentially the whole series is, there's traveling monks, that are genderless, right? They travel and write down stories, and their whole entire religion, organization, all of that stuff is based off of, the importance of stories and storytelling. And they travel, like there's a whole bunch of them, and they all travel the world to write down stories and experiences from their lives. And then there's also these like magical bird-like creatures that can remember everything. And then they work together to do this. And so that, like, as time passes, we still know these stories and whatnot. And that's the whole point of the series. This one, the monk that we have been following this whole time, they return to home base, essentially, to learn that the head of the group / the one who taught them suddenly died. And because it was very sudden, nobody else higher up was there. So the person who is left in charge is the main character's best friend from childhood, who, like, so it's this whole thing of, like, grieving this person who was, like, a parental figure to them. Dealing with the fact that, like, this close friend is the person who's in charge of them now, right? And also there's this whole part where the whole reason why the friend was there, instead of being out collecting stories, is because when they were children, there was an accident. The main character, something had to do with them causing the best friend's foot to be injured, and so they can't travel, right? They have to use a cane and whatnot. The bird is back whacking into my window. God damn it. We're ignoring it every day of my life. Like, they feel bad because the whole reason they were there at the time is because an accident they caused, right? But because that this friend is in charge, all this stuff. Also, the head person in charge, who died before becoming part of this group, was a man who was married and had children, and those children had children. And so the grandparents, or not grandparents, the grandchildren, who are mammoth warriors, hence mammoths at the gates, because they're at the gates of the temple, are like, give us our grandfather's body. It's a lot of, like, what do you do if late in life a grandparent completely changes their identity and how do you handle that? Because it's a lot of them misgendering their grandfather, right? Using he him pronouns, even though like they had chosen for life and death this way of life. They want their grandfather's body to bury it next to their grandmother, and whatnot. And they have like their own religious aspects that they're like, no, this is like, they chose to be a part of this group at the end of their life. And then there's like this whole, so it's like the grief of all of this, all these people trying to grieve this person who had a different connection to all of them, because like the grandchildren barely remember him. The grandchildren barely remember their grandfather and all this stuff. And then lo and behold, there's like this ceremony where you in a circle tell different stories about your the deceased person that you're connected to, and they invite the grandchildren to take part. And one of the grandchildren tells a story that they don't know if it's true or not, that the grandmother brought up when she was kind of out of it and whatnot. Apparently she really liked the beach. They lived kind of near the beach, but she couldn't go to the beach because she couldn't walk properly. And the grandmother explained to one of her grandchildren, I think on her deathbed, that it was because her husband pushed her down the stairs. And that's why. And the magical birds I talked about are over listening all of this, so it's like kept in their records forever. And then the grandchildren, especially one of them, she's like very violent. She's the head of a military force for a reason. She gets very angry. There's a lot of threats of burning down the temple, breaking down the temple. They almost break through the gates at one point, all this stuff. And then at the end of the book, the main character is like off on adventure again. It was good. It was as I expected. I expected this to be a book about grief and how, and it was about grief and how different people grieve the same person, based off of their own experiences of that person, and how it's important to respect that and whatnot, which is a great thing to read at this point in my life. 4 stars. And then the arc I read, the day it came out, I finished it, so let's go. A Brood Awakening, which is a Christian romance. I didn't know that when I picked it up. Hear me out. It's not that obvious. I'm gonna say it. It is a clean romance. I hate that term. It's a clean romance. It is taking place in the South. And church is brought up a few times. The fact that this random British man moves to this town, the small southern town, and he just happens to be the same exact group, no, I can't pronounce words, so I'm not even gonna try it, but same exact sector of religion to go to the same exact church as everybody else. It's a little weird. Also, there's like in between chapters, there's like social media post type thing. And the pastor does a lot of them. Is weird. It's this whole thing. Anyways, it's about this girl who's lived in this small town. She essentially has no family except for her brother, and she runs her grandmother's tea shop. Her grandmother was from England. The boy next door has just moved from London, right? He is building a pub there. He is a single father, right? And it's a lot of him immediately being rude. This is a thing I have an issue in romances. I clocked this when I talked about the last book. Know that I clocked this when I was reading that book, okay? In which a lot of enemies to lovers, right? Or rivals to lovers. I think I've thought of this before, but it's really hitting me this year, where sometimes the line of like rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers, really goes over the line for me. And it gets a little too much with the things they say or do. Essentially, she's like really into his car, and instead of like being nice to her, he is really mean and rude to her, and whatnot. And he does feel bad, and so he goes to apologize, and instead he's mean and rude to her again. And it's a lot of him just being really mean to her, and his reasoning is, 1, it's fun, and 2, it's not like she's been through any hardship. I would like to remind you, her father abandoned them, or inform you, I guess. Her father abandoned them when her mother got sick with cancer and died. Also, around this time, her brother is disabled. He has a prosthetic leg. So that's also a part of the reason why their father left. And so then they were raised by their grandmother, who recently died and left them this tea shop that she is trying to run, but money is an issue. And whatnot. Anyways, they start up this competition, but also they're working together, and it's like this whole, it's supposed to be a cute thing, but I can't get over some of the things he says and does in the beginning of the book. There's this one part where he switches out all the sugar in her shop with salt. Somebody arrest this man. This is not, that's actually like not okay. That's like another pet peeve I have in books, is when somebody does something to another person's business. I think Love Light Farms was the first one I noticed this happening, where it really bothered me, and then I read like 3 books in a row that had this, where somebody does something to their place of business, and it's not a good thing. Like, it affects horribly their place of business, and it's just breezed past. I'm like, no, that's actually not okay. She is a bakery / tea shop. She needs sugar. Now all her baked goods have salt. That's a waste of, oh my god, I'm so mad. I'm still mad. I didn't like it. That being said, one, when he learned that actually, yeah, she's been through shit because she's a human being, and he started to treat her like a person. Two, despite the fact that it's a clean romance, from his point of view, he is very heavily into her, and it doesn't go into great detail, but gives enough detail to be like, I'm surprised this isn't a Christian romance, I'm gonna be honest. Right? The daughter was really cute. She has a speech impediment, that has caused, the cause of the speech impediment has needed multiple surgeries, right? And so that's why her mother left. And so, like, there's that whole thing. They're really, also, near the end of the book, there's just, the town's just flooded at the end of the book. That's a fun fact. The town's just flooded. Anyways, they're cute. But also, I can never get over the stuff that he does or says in the beginning of the book. That's not the only book that's done this, that I've read this month too, by the way. So 2.5 stars. We're gonna quickly talk about the book I DNF'd. And then, we're gonna take a break. Murder Road by Simone St. James. My history, the first Simone St. James I rated 5 stars. It was great. And then I think I've read another one that I rated 4 stars. I think the first one was Broken Girls, and that one was the Book of Cold Cases, right? I remember this. So I kept on I like had this on and off on my library card, like, for the last 6 months of last year, and I finally picked it up, right? And I started reading it. Listen, I only got 11% in. I started reading it, and then I went, why am I reading this? The only reason I picked it up is because it's Simone St. James. If I read the synopsis beforehand, which I probably did, and I have heard other people read it and dislike it, and I read their reviews, and I read the synopsis fully for the first time in, like, probably a year, and I went, nothing about this is something I would enjoy. Especially since it's somewhere between a trigger and a pet peeve. I thought of the perfect term for this, but that was like 3 weeks ago when I did up this book. So I don't remember what the term I thought of that fits it perfectly, but somewhere's in that realm where it really bothers me when somebody is falsely accused of something. And the whole entire premise of this book is that this freshly married, one of them, I think he was in Vietnam, so he was in some kind of war. Okay, he was in some kind of war. Doesn't talk about it. She has been on her own for most of her life. They meet, they start dating, very quickly get married. They are on their way to this small town for their honeymoon, right? They're driving on the road, and randomly, there is a bloody girl on the side of the road, so they stop to pick her up to try and help her. They're being, like, chased on the road, right? She dies. They try to get her to the hospital. Like, they bring her to the hospital. Obviously, the police come to question them, and the police just immediately assume they're the ones who did it. So, like, the main character is trying to, one, figure out her husband, but also two, figure out what is actually happening, because if she doesn't, they're just gonna be in jail for a crime they didn't commit because they stopped on the side of the road to help a girl. And there's, like, hints that, like, when they pick her up, that she understands some of what this girl's going through. So there's, like, something going on there. Anyways, yeah, the whole time, it would have just been me being annoyed with the fucking police. Because, and hear me out, from the synopsis, there have been multiple cases of girls and people going missing on this road. And so this random couple from out of town picks up one of the girls and tries to save her life, and that's who did it. That's who we're gonna say who did it. Instead of, like, you know, clocking that, they have clear alibis called being in different states. One of them was in another country fighting a war when this shit was happening. What are you on about? Anyways, yeah, that's why I DNF'd it. I really read 11%, and I went, I wouldn't like this book even if I read it all the way through. Like, even if it is typical Simone St. James, like, her writing that I really enjoy. Also, I was kind of clocking some of because the thing about Simone St. James books is that the whole book, this thing's happening, and then near the end, there's this twist of it's slightly magical, slightly spooky. Ghosts were the ones in the two that I read, right? And so it's, like, somewhat connected to the Book of Cold Cases was, like, Broken Girls. It was somewhat connected to the actual case. In the Book of Cold Cases, it was connected to that one, right? So I was like, I don't know about this, but I, like, kind of got the vibe already of what the slightly magical spooky thing was going to be for the twist at the end. I was like, if I'm already gathering it at this point, like, part of my enjoyment of the other two Simone St. James I've read is that I don't see it coming. Like, I know it's gonna come, especially at this point, having read two of her books, and it's a common theme, right? Like, I know it's gonna happen, but I don't know what it is exactly. And so when it happens, I'm just like, ooh, oh my god, that's so exciting, blah, blah, blah. Except, I already had a feeling, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, from, like, the first few chapters. I'm gonna be honest. So, like, what's the benefit of me reading it? So yeah, finally DNF this book that's been on my TBR for so long. I forgot. Show up. I want to show it off in the intro. I'm at 87 books this year. Is my goal still 300? Listen, my goal was 300 before life stuff happened. I love how I keep on hinting at it, but, like, 2 days after it happened, I immediately said it in a video. Life happened at the very end of January, and so I've been slumping kind of hard since then. Life keep on kicking me in the face, right? So I am behind by, like, 38 books, but that's fine. I have plans. I do have this, though. I'm showing this off because it was a birthday present. May was my birthday, and this was a birthday present from a friend. I also, oh shit, I forgot I have to grab something. I have to grab another thing at some point. Well, I'll take another break. No, I won't take another break because that's the book after the next one. I'll just get up and get in the middle of this film. Who cares? Who cares? Next one is Hit Me With Your Best Scott, which I rated 3 stars, which is sad. I'm really sad about this because this is the last book in a trilogy, which is a Scottish English romance, historical romance. The first one I rated 4 stars, second one I rated 4.5 stars. That one was spectacular. The issue with this one is, I had to make sure nobody was here. The main issue with this one is 2 specific things, with the main character, male main character, and the mother. The premise of the series is these are the McTaggart brothers, right? Their sister is engaged, and when she gets engaged, who lives in London, their mother is English, their father is Scottish, right? And they when she gets engaged and they get that letter, their father admits that their parents made a deal that as long as the brothers get married before the sister, then the mother will continue paying for the Scottish land stuff. So, like, being able to take care of the people who live on their land. There's this whole aspect where Cole, I think that's his name in this one, I really should have checked this. He's the oldest. It goes, the first one is the youngest, and then the middle, and then the oldest, right? Why is this a BuzzFeed 19 anticipated books that have finally been released for you to read? Yes, his name is Cole. Anyways, he is the heir, right, of all his lands and stuff, and he does briefly talk about aspects, and this is kind of like the best part, about how, because of everything, I'm not an expert on history, but I'm gonna go, because the English are English, a lot of, Scottish landholding people have had to sell their lands, and so it's just used for sheep grazing. And because of that, not many actual Scottish people are actually living on Scottish land. And theirs is like the only one within a large range of area where like the people are able to live on the land and survive and thrive, right? Because of their mother's money. And so they need to get married fast. And so that's like a whole thing, right? Part of the reason why this is a deal is because when they were young, Cole was 11, I believe. Their mother got, like, the parents had a fight. She wanted to spend some time in London, which makes sense. Like, she's from England. That's where her family and friends are. And he wants to stay in Scotland because one, he is the one in charge of this land. He's got to be here to take care of shit. Also, this is where his friends and family are. And so she gets sick of it and packs up, leaves with their young daughter, and never returns. Right? Now, the first one, I gotta talk about this as well. The first one, Cole, part of the deal was that the mother was supposed to set up one of the brothers. It was supposed to be a lady of her choosing. And the whole plot of the first one is Cole is, as the oldest, is like, I'll be the one to take this, right? And the whole time, he's kind of snubbing the girl that he's supposed to be wooing, because that's the one his mother chose for him to marry, right? And so the younger brother, is, like, spending his time fixing it, and by doing that, he's accidentally wooing the same girl, and then they fall in love and get married. And so technically, he did marry a woman of their mother's choosing, blah, 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 right? But throughout the first book, Cole's whole thing is that he is going to just marry an English bride. He doesn't have any reason to, like, take them back to Scotland. He's just gonna marry an English bride, consummate it, and get the fuck back to Scotland, right? Because technically that counts, right? Which makes the mother upset. Not because of the obvious reasons of respecting your wife or anything, but because her whole reason of doing all this is because she wants her sons back in her life. And so by having wives who are English women, who have to come back into, like, this is where their friends and family are, right? That means they'll have to return back to the area, and so then, therefore, she gets to have a relationship with her sons. Here's the thing. Suddenly, in this one, now that we have Cole's POV, actually, that whole thing about wanting to wed bed and leave, a woman, Cole's decided, nah, never mind, because he's seen his other brothers fall in love, so now he wants to fall in love with as well. He falls in love with an actress, who, for some reason, there are acts against her life, regularly currently. So one, he's protecting her from, unwanted advances from other men. Two, protecting her, from these attacks against her life and trying to figure out who is doing it. And while this is all happening, he's seducing her. And part of the deal is that she, is letting the seducing happening because, it's supposed to be practice for the real thing, because he has to get married soon, like in, like, the next 3 weeks, because that's when the sister is getting married, right? Except it's too real for both of them, right? Also, there's this whole thing where the mother's like, well, she's not a lady, and he's like, well, you said English woman, not English lady, and all this stuff, and then it turns out, actually, she's secret identity, she is a lady, so it's okay, that's all fixed. And it's a lot of, like, Cole stuff from the previous books that made him hot-headed and hard-headed, and there was, like, a whole aspect in those books. It's just like, yeah, breeze by, or forget that happened, that's actually a lie. So that's not great. And the mother, there's this whole part where he's all like, I wrote you letters and you never replied, and she's like, I wrote you letters and you never replied. And the father shows up randomly, and turns out he kept all the letters from all of them. The sons sent her letters, she sent letters to her children. He hid them all, so none of them had any contact with each other, which is a shitty thing to do. But also, Girly Pop, you could just show back up and be like, hey, what the hell is happening? I haven't heard from my children. Are they even alive? Right? Anyways, a lot of, like, the first book, I had some issues, which is why it's a 4 and not a 4.5, with her trying, this whole plot happening so that, she can get back in good graces with her sons and she can have a relationship with them again. And I had issues with it because, obviously, what she did was not great. And I don't like it. Like, I somewhat understand, but also, like, when the dad shows up, it's, like, heavily insinuated that they're all, like, into each other again and whatnot, and it's all weird. It's weird. I don't like it. And so, like, the first one is kind of a thing because, like, it sets up the book, sets up the plot, so it's this whole thing. It's kind of ignored in the second one, which is fine for me because I don't want to think about that. Third one, it can't be ignored because it's the end of the series. It's got to finish it off, right? It's got to resolute all this stuff. And also, here's another thing. Cole was 11 when she left. He vividly remembers his mother leaving and never coming back. And he's, like, supposed to ignore that. And it's insinuated near the end that, like, he doesn't really forget or forgive, but he accepts this happened and that she's his mother, right? And that she has a part of his life. Sure, whatever. It's just not well done. I don't like it. I don't like it. So 3 stars. I'm sad. I'm sad. Also, the first 2, especially the second one. The second one, this was really good. This one, I was not a big fan of. I was like, whatever. Okay, sure. Anyways, coffee, and then I go grab it then. And I grab my second prop. There's, like, a bunch of background information about this one, okay? You don't see the prop in my hand. Which is, one, I have been doing this thing where I've been slowly working through, the manga I loved, especially middle school, early high school, and actually finishing them, right? And, also, like, rereading them in general, so that I can have, like, an adult opinion about it. That's what I did with Oran High School Host Club, really love it, and recently, I caught up with Yona. All of what's out of Yona in English, I have read at this point. So I'm just waiting for new ones to come out. There was another series I contemplated starting, but then learned that one's also not finished and is also in its, like, last arc. So I was like, I don't want to pick up another manga that is actively coming out because it's gonna be, like, years before they're all out in English, blah blah blah. So I went, maybe I'll go back to one of the ones I liked when I was younger. And now we bring up the prop, which was, it was my birthday. Bestie went to China. I'm pretty sure she got this in China. Because that's the only thing that makes sense in the stuff that she sent. Well, I guess there was also the postcard. There's also the postcard, which is gorgeous. I love this. I love this. So, you know, good times, good times, good times. I'm trying not to give any information on the back of the postcard, so I'm trying to hide it from you. Yes, it's on my desk. So that maybe that's the thing from China, but I assume also this came from China. Which is a bookmark. It is a bookmark, and it has a little rabbit, which is important because it took me like 30 seconds to realize the reason why. Little rabbit, she got the rabbit one instead of like, I like dragons, why would you not choose the dragons? It's because I'm a year of the rabbit. That's why. And that's why it comes to this book, because the book I chose, listen, I already was thinking about starting to reread, and then this came in the mail, and I went, oh god, I want to read that book so bad. That's kind of fitting the vibe of what I want to read right now. And then I DNF'd 2 books in one day, and I went, I'm just going to go read that instead, and that is Fruits Basket. Which it has to do with the Zodiac, that's why. The plot, the in-universe lore, is that there is this family who, there are the 12 Zodiacs, I think technically 13 with a cat, I'm pretty sure, 8 animal Zodiacs, when they are hugged by somebody of the opposite gender who's not part of the family, well, not part of one of the ones who can also turn, who isn't also cursed, they, turn into their animal of the year, right? So we know the rat, the cat, the dog, the bunny, the boar, and the dragon, who was a seahorse at the end of this one. A lot of me reading this was me sitting there being like, which one of the guys was the one I was obsessed with? Like, I gotta pull up the original anime, because I know they redid the anime, because they redid the manga. I will talk about that in a second. And so I know they redid it, but when I was in middle school / early high school, it was the original anime, and there was one of them, and I can picture exactly one frame of the show that was my computer background at school. And so I tried to find it online, and I couldn't find it. And so I have to go watch the original anime so I can figure out, I think it's Dragon Guy, I think it's Seahorse Guy, who is the family doctor. If it's not, what is wrong with me? Because Oh my god, he's so damaged and silent and broody, and he was in love with a woman, and then she blamed herself for some stuff. She didn't care about the whole turning into a seahorse thing. She was actually really sweet and cute about it. And she started going a little she got really depressed because his eye was injured in a thing because of her knowing about the secret and their love, and so she blames herself, gets really depressed, and so he also has, like, some of them have also bonus secret powers, and his is to be able to erase people's memories, and so he erases the woman he loves memories so she can have a life, and he can just be sad all on his own. Anyways, I love him. Oh yeah, the new series. Technically this is a collector's edition volume 1, which is technically books 1 and 2 of the original series. Apparently, somewhat recently, they redid the translation, the English translation, and re-released them as omnibus versions. Is that even how you pronounce it? I'm not sure. Where it is 2 volumes in 1, right? So it's like 400 pages. So if I read 3 in a month, nobody can yell at me and tell me, well, it's obvious that the reason why you read so many books in a month is because you read 3 mangas. Yeah, 3 mangas really did that. No, because it's like 400 pages. It took me a whole day. I was going to bed at 10 because I didn't realize how long it would actually take me to read it, okay? Anyways, so it is, apparently, from what I read online, some people have issues with the translation in the beginning because of the new edition. Because it's not as, like, the dialogue is not as seamless. I haven't noticed that issue. And then apparently one benefit is that there was a translation mistake halfway through the series, and it is fixed now in this edition, which is great. The biggest change I noticed is there is a part where Yuki, who's the rat and cat are fighting, okay? The rat and the cat are fighting constantly, and Yuki has a secret garden, and he shows Tori, the main character, and they go and she usually cooks and cleans for them, right, as part of her living there for free. It's this whole thing. Should I talk about the plot? Maybe. She's a widow, not a widow, orphan. She's an orphan, 16-year-old, living in a tent, and kind of near the property, and they help her out. And she accidentally almost immediately learns of their secret. And she's all like, no, I'll keep it a secret. I don't care. Kind of naive, but like in a cute, sweet way. Like she's clearly naive about some things, but like also because of that, she has this earnestness about her views in life, which really helps with Kyo, who's the cat. Who she loves the cat. She's the ear of the dog, but she always wanted to be ear of the cat because the story about the Zodiac really upset her, and she loves the cat. I was really excited when she meets the cat, and then the cat's immediately really rude to her. I don't need to talk about this. Anyways, yeah, so she essentially becomes their live-in housekeeper, but also like a close friend, and it's this whole, it seems to be the head of the family, who I forget what animal he is, and I don't want to look it up because I want to learn, naturally from reading the book. Apparently it's like a whole plot with him that maybe like having a human connection outside the family will help them, because both Yuki and, well, Yuki especially has been having issues with the family, and he's having issues. Anyways, they're taking vegetables from his garden, and she makes food out of it, and then Kyo gets really upset. And I remember this because multiple times he screams about leaks, and he's screaming about leaks, and I vividly remember him screaming about leaks. So imagine when I get to that part in the book and it's scallions. I laughed because also Fruits Basket is when I learned what leaks are. That's how I learned what leaks are, from reading this book initially in middle school. Anyways, yeah, that's the biggest change I noticed. It made me laugh. Anyways, 4 stars. I had a great time. It was so nostalgic. I had a great time. Listen, I don't know how to say this in a way that makes sense. Kale gives me sapphic butch vibes. There's just, maybe I'll put up a picture, because his outfit generally is usually dark or light cargo pants. I'm assuming orangish cargo pants, and dark t-shirt, but it's always like slightly cropped. And then he's got like the undercut thing where his hair, the way his hair is kind of given a sapphic haircut, right? It's given butch haircut, and his hair is bright orange canonically. And so everyone assumes he dies it. And there's this one part when they're fighting and it looks like Yuki and Kyo are about to kiss. And I am going to leave it there. Anyways, also, why, there's like, I get this family is like over 100 people. And so most of them don't know about the Zodiac curse. But like, people within the family, even people who are cursed in the family, have like relationships, and that feels a little weird. Anyways, in case anyone was wondering, when I was growing up, if it was a Kyo or a Yuki girl, this was my Edward or Jacob. Okay, I was a Kyo, which is really funny when you remember that he gives Butch Sapphic vibes to me when I'm 27. I love that. Anyways, that's my review of that book. That was just a fun time. And we're gonna quickly pump out the last 3 books, partially because I'm getting a migraine. And I also have not finished my coffee. It's past my normal time of finishing coffee. I'm gonna try not to talk with this in my hand now the rest of the time. Where the Drowned Girls Go, which is the 7th book in the Wayward Children. The way I remember that series by Sean McGuire. Magic doors pop up for children, doorways. There's a theme I noticed where every single one that has Jack and Jill in it, 4.5 or a 4. Otherwise it's 3, and this continues this trend because it's a 3. Essentially, multiple books ago, there were a bunch of the kids who went traveling through multiple realms. This follows one of them who we know from that one went to a mermaid realm. And in that book, she ended up going into this. They're kind of evil mermaids, right? And so now they keep on haunting her nightmares and coming after her, and she can't like go into a bath properly anymore. Like, it's really affecting her psychologically. And so she decides to switch to the other school because there's like these 2 schools. There's the one that we've been following so far, in which they teach the kids, one, how to like survive in the world if their door never comes back, but also like kind of just biding their time until their door comes back, kind of thing. And then she is like, I'm gonna switch to the other school actually. And that one gives cultish vibes. There is mind control. There is solitary confinement. Yeah. Oh, you know what I was thinking it was very cultish, and then at one point I was reading it as I was doing other stuff, and I went, it's actually kind of giving conversion camp, kind of. Like this whole school's thing is like making you forget that this ever happened, like think it's just a weird dream you had. Right? And how that is how they do it, like they like make you forget it happened, which is why it's a benefit to her because she needs to forget the second adventure she had. Right, because they're really affecting her. But their whole thing is doing all this stuff, making it's like a system where the kids tell on each other to get more points. You have to do, there's like all these very specific rules you have to follow, or else you end up in solitary confinement. All this stuff, and all of it is to like make it so you're this way instead of that way. And it's given cult mixed with conversion camp. That's what's given. Anyways, the first half, I was not into it. I was like, I'm not liking this. Second half was a little bit better, mostly because, in the second half, characters from other books popped up. One of the characters, in the beginning, turns out she is the horse girl from the previous book. So that's fun. And then, the girl from when, they traveled multiple dimensions at one time, shows up to like come save her, right? And so she's there helping out, and there's all this stuff, and there's like this whole big like important speech and meaning at the end, and I was just there like, okay, 3 stars. Maybe like, why are you continuing the series then? There's a dinosaur one. In fact, I'm pretty sure the dinosaur girl was brought up in this one, and I am a dinosaur kid. I want to read the dinosaur one. That's why. Anyways, then I finished Nobody's Girl, which is a book I've been reading since February. Which, Virginia, go for it. Listen, I'm going to tell you how I managed to actually finish this book, which is, the fact that I a podcast I watch occasionally, learned of recently, started watching recently, had an episode on Jeffrey Epstein. Because of that, a lot of the details we know is from Virginia, right? And so because of that, they brought up the basic overline of what happened to Virginia. So because I knew the basic overline, I was able to actually finish it. Because it goes into more detail. Essentially is Virginia's experiences throughout her adolescence, being abused by essentially every man in her life, until she gets in contact with Jeffrey Epstein, and how she is definitely the biggest evidence of him trafficking girls and whatnot, and all that whatnot. You most definitely have seen the picture of her with Prince Andrew. She's also the one with the biggest evidence for that. Anyways, the first half was a lot about that. The second half was a lot of her journey healing, escaping, meeting her husband, falling in love, having kids, trying to survive, and then also like the court stuff and the advocacy stuff and all the stuff. And then it comes to like the last 2 chapters, in which, before this book came out, Virginia died. This is the other thing, of supposed suicide. There is a part at one point where she was like so scared for her life, where she says, she like posts online, if I like die of suicide, don't believe it. That's not what happened. But also she does get very suicidal at one point. One, because of all this stuff. One, her story is being dragged online constantly. Her children are like being targeted by people. The people are showing up at her house, right? She's having to confront her abusers. And also, there was an accident, I think it was a ski accident, I don't remember, where she broke her neck. And she has had multiple surgeries at this point. And she's in constant pain. So on top of the trauma, they're trying to heal from the trauma, going through the trauma publicly over and over again to get people to get repercussions for their actions, right? On top of all that, she's now in chronic pain constantly. And so she does end up getting suicidal because of this. Also, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure she was separated from her children. She was separated from her husband, I know for a fact. I think he got custody of the children around this time. Here's the thing. This is why it's a 4.5 and not a 5. Like, this is very important, but I understand it. Blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. I know she probably did not want to go into detail about it. Like, here's the thing. The abuse she went through as a child with her father and his best friend, was never stated elsewhere before the book, because she did not want to talk about it, right? Understandable, but it was like important to understand how Jeffrey was able to manipulate her, right? So that was like important to her story, but she didn't want to like drag her father. So I get connected. She didn't want to drag her husband. But here's the thing: it is public knowledge that her husband was abusive. And so, multiple times, it's just said, throughout the book, he just seems to be, like, this great, perfect guy who's always supportive and there for her, but also, like, is upset with her doing all this stuff, all this advocacy, because he wants her to be, like, part of their family, and be there for their children and all this stuff, right? But also, like, every once in a while, like, 3 times, I think, it's just brought up and dropped that, he has issues with anger. He gets angry really easily. The closest evidence, like, the most we see of this is, she tries to have a relationship with her father again, but eventually, she, stops that, because she realizes, he's never gonna not be a little creepy, and she has a daughter now. And she has siblings who have daughters, right? And they don't know about this stuff, so she has to, like, tell them about her abuse so that they know to protect their children from him and all this stuff, right? And he gets very angry and shows up at her place, and all this stuff. And her husband threatens to beat him to death. And I say, valid. That's the one time it is valid. Okay, I'm down for that. Okay? But, like, it's, other than that, his abusiveness is not brought up in this book. I think in the intro, listen, it's been like 4 months since I read the intro, okay? But I'm pretty sure in the intro, the editor / co-writer, slash ghostwriter, like, puts in this whole part about how her husband was abusive. I think so. But, like, it's never touched on. And I'm just saying, hey, maybe that has to do with all this shit she was going through. Because not only was all this shit happening that I already brought up, but also her husband was abusive. Right? And how, like, cycle of abuse and whatnot. And I feel like, I get why she didn't want to put it in, but, I feel like that's the thing we should also be talking about. He's also not my favorite. I also don't like him that much. I'm gonna be honest. Anyways, it is sad. Like, the last, like, few chapters is just, like, her living her life, trying to survive, blah, 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 and going to be with her happy family and trying to be happy and all this stuff. And this whole time, I'm in my head, I'm like, he's abusive. And then also, like 2 months after this, she kills herself. She's dead. And sad. Anyways, it made me very angry and very sad, which, good. I think people, if you can read it, because it does go into more detail, it goes into a lot. I'm gonna be honest, it's a hard read, but if you can get through it, I recommend it. 4.5 stars. It was good. And then, Rivalry of Hearts. I can't pronounce rivalry. Hear me out. I technically finished that book at 12:30 a.m. today, on June 1st. But I'm counting it because it was before 1 a.m., so I'm counting it as a May book. And also, I only had, like, an hour left in the audiobook, which was 20 minutes my time, okay? Like, when it became June. So, like, I'm counting it. Anyways, it is about William and Ed. I can't remember her full first name, but I know his nickname for her is Ed. I think it's like Edwina or something like that. She is a human author, who recently wrote a fae smut book. And there is, I'm about to talk about what I really like about this book in a hot minute. Anyways, so she wrote this fae smut book. And there's been, like, human fae wars somewhat recently. So there's, like, well, since she was a child is when the last one ended. So there's some, like, negative views upon it in the human lands. But the fae love it. So she is put on a book tour in the Faelands. Except her getting to the Faelands and being able to go on this book tour and all this stuff is complicated because there's a bunch of issues getting there. And so she is late. And so instead, while they were waiting to see if she could show up, they put somebody else on the tour, which is this poet, William, right? And they learn, they're not supposed to know this, but they learn that there's this whole competition where whoever sells the most amount of books in this tour gets this deal with the publisher to a 3-book deal, and being able to live in the Faelands and all this stuff, which is really important for her, because her human publisher drops her while she's away. There's a lot of so there's this competition. There's this whole competition between the two of them, right? He's fae, she's human. There's this whole competition. Eventually she gets really drunk one night and she makes a new deal with him, right? Where whoever does something intimate with a partner, so it can just be a kiss, behind closed doors of their bedroom, the most during this tour gets the deal, right? And so now there's, like, a seduction competition. There's a whole point where they accidentally go to an orgy together. She doesn't know it's an orgy, and he's following her to, like, because he assumes she's gonna pass out because she's like, it's a lot of the human stuff is very traditional 1800s. I hear the bird in another room. 1800s London English aristocracy, how, like, you have to wear skirts that show or cover up your ankles, like, stuff like that, right? And so the fact that she is a single woman at 28, unmarried, working a job, and also has had sex with more than one partner, I think, let alone unmarried and having sex, oh my god, is very frowned upon, right? Right? And so he's assuming she's gonna accidentally go to his orgy and pass the fuck out. So he's there to, like, drag her out when that happens. And so she is very interested. She's all like, oh my god, people can do it like that? Oh my god, that's so important for my book. This is, like, great research. Also, she's really into different types of boobs. I love that for her. Right. Now here's the thing. He immediately finds her really cute. Another part of that rivalry aspect. This is why I said earlier when the getting what the male partner usually in these books does or says in the beginning of the book to make it clear that they're enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers, kind of goes over the line a little bit for me sometimes. And this is the one that made me realize that's like a thing. I've been having an issue with this in this book because he does that right in this book, but we immediately then get his POV in which he's trying to flirt and banter, and he thinks he's making it obvious, but she thinks he's just being rude to her, calling her book smut and drivel and stuff like that. And so and then it just becomes them flirting. Like, that's just how they flirt. The sex scenes, spectacular. Anyways, it's them traveling, doing this. Now, things I really appreciate about this book. It parodies a lot of popular romantasy in a lot of ways. The most obvious example I can think of is on this through the Fadelands, they go to the summer court and the winter court and the spring court. Yeah, it's ACOTAR. That made me giggle. Also, a lot of this book is her experience, one as a female art writer, and how her human publisher wants her to I think her name is Edwina, and they want her to go by Edwin and publish like literary books and all this stuff, and not romance, because romance is for girls and girls are icky. And so you gotta pretend to be a man and write for men, because woman literature is not real literature. And how the public view of romance and smut is frowned upon, despite the fact that like there is a very clear audience for it, and how it makes good money. Like, it makes a good bank for the publishers and whatnot, and for her, and all this stuff. But, like, all this stuff. So it's like, the patriarchy really affecting her art and how her art is viewed and whatnot. Meanwhile, in the Fadelands, it's like, they made a literal play or musical about one of her books. Like, that's a whole thing. Anyways, that part I really liked. It was really well done. And that comes into play with the twist. Here's the thing. This whole book was 4.5 stars. This whole time, we know that he's keeping some big secret. There's assumptions about some of the poetry is about a dead lover of his named June, right? There's a twist in which we learn some stuff. And, I didn't like it. I didn't like the twist. It tries to explain it in a way to make it okay. And I went, actually, it's not. It's really not. And then for the epilogue, it to be like them together and whatnot. And he's decided to make it so that's not a thing anymore. That's not, and just be the actor like he's always wanted to be, and all this stuff. He's gonna be a villain now. Love that. He's gonna play the villain. Love that for me, actually. And so I was like, it felt icky, despite the fact that this whole book has been this general thing that I already talked about the patriarchy, writing, and women writers, and all this stuff. And then his character plot twist at the end that caused a third act breakup goes against everything the book has been saying. And both the main character and us are just supposed to be like, okay, I guess, because his sister goes, you're being prejudiced against us. Girly Pop, no, this is not okay. What the hell? And because it was a 4 instead of a 4.5. If it wasn't for that, it would have been a 4.5. This mount was spectacular. The banter was so good. There was a part where he pushes her up against a wall and leans in close, and it says that for free, all she has to do is ask, and he'll teach her everything she needs to know. And about sex in general, but also about herself and her own desires, because he starts to understand that, like, she doesn't see herself, one, as desirable, because she's never been desirable to human men, but also as somebody worthy of desire, right? Like, the few times she's had sexual experiences with men, it's all been about them and not about her. And so he's all like, no, it will be about you. All you gotta do is ask. And I was sitting there like, okay, okay, sir, okay, I see. Anyways, it's part of an interconnected series. I'm excited about the second one. I am going to read it. I think there's a third one supposed to come out, but the second one is about 2 side characters in this one, that were, like, brought up briefly a few times, like, their connection. He thinks the love is not real, but he writes a romance column. And he treats her like a pet, kind of. And meanwhile, she has a thing for him. And he does it to make it so that she doesn't follow her advances because he doesn't believe in love. It's his whole thing. And I'm excited to read it. It was a good time. It was much better than I expected. I'm gonna be honest. I picked it up thinking it was gonna be dumb, and then I saw one of my friends on Storygraph rated 5 stars, and I went, I trust you, bitch. And then I read it, and I went, hell yeah, it's so good. So other than that one thing at the end, it was a great book. I really liked it. I highly recommend. The end. That's the last book. Goodbye. I'm gonna stop playing with this thing, though. I'm gonna take another sip of coffee. My head's killing me from all this talking. That is it. That is the end of the video. Wednesdays, except for this Wednesday, because this is going up on a Wednesday, is gaming videos. Normally they are slightly edited down versions of gaming streams on Twitch. By the way, I stream on Twitch, both games, and also reading stuff and whatnot. Then below. Except the next few, I know for a fact, are going to be more edited down. Of Subnautica 2, and also one of them I didn't even stream it out. I meant to, like, record just a few clips here and there as I just collected shit, and then I ended up playing so much accidentally. And it was, like, enough for a whole video. And I'm like, god damn it. So that's the whole thing. Saturdays are booktube videos like this. This Saturday, like, literally in a few days for you, is going to be the next Weird Smut. Fun fact, I do Weird Smut videos occasionally. That's my, yeah, if you're here, you probably know that. Is gay, the end, because it's Pride Month. In case you didn't know, it's Pride Month. In case you didn't know, it looks more like the trans flag, or lesbian, not trans, like lesbian flag, because it's pastel. So it's giving me more that vibes, but that's fine. That's it, that's everything. I'm gonna go, goodbye, until the next video.